Because of this move to divest Warner Media into its own company with Discovery, the merger with the Warner Media and Discovery, CapEx after the close in the second quarter or the second half of the year, whatever comes first, right? CapEx will increase to $24 billion, Sneedman, for AT&T.
You want to cover that? Let's discuss that a little bit. So the dividend cut directly responds and turns into a spike in an increase
Massive.
in CapEx. It increases by $3 billion. It goes from 21 to 24 billion. Now, as a percentage, Moose, we're talking about a 15% increase.
Right, but the CapEx currently, that 21 billion, incorporates Warner Media, which is between 6 to 8 billion. So realistically, it's actually, hold up, let me do the numbers really quick.
Well, if we're just looking at the overall numbers, $3 billion positions them to spend as much or more than Verizon on C Band within the next 2 years.
You know, it's interesting you mention that, because what we're getting told, I know Tyrone has some interesting reporting on this. We were talking about this earlier. AT&T, it seems like they're going to be ramping faster than Verizon. They have publicly come out since that news on Monday this week that 200 million pops will be covered by the end of 2023. That's the second full year.
All right, so we're jumping ahead.
Of course.
let's come back to the first thing. We'll just do the CapEx first, and then how that converts to C Band. Okay.
Right.
All right, so the CapEx increases from 21 billion to 24 billion.
Right.
We get a more focused expenditure specifically for C Band, because it ends up, what people have to understand about the Time Warner thing is now that gets its own company investment. So after this year, there's no AT&T feeding into Time Warner anymore, right? That's a standalone company.
Right.
That means CapEx is going to be more dedicated to fiber and wireless than it's ever been, right? So AT&T's initial plan was to get 100 million pops of coverage by the end of by the start of 2023.
Yeah, 2020. Yeah.
At that same time, Verizon was going to be at 175.
Right.
So essentially twice the pace almost, right?
Right.
Well, now the tables turn. They not only match Verizon, but they might even be exceeding them in that same time frame. They want to push to 200 million pops.
Correct.
So we'll see. We'll have to see how it's executed. I'm not doubting AT&T, actually. If AT&T says 200 million pops in a year and a half,
it might be even more. That's conservative.
I say, yeah. Well, here's why I don't argue that. I've seen what they've done with LTE.
Right, FirstNet.
I've seen what they did with FirstNet. I'm not here to question those that have done it before. Unless there's something glaringly obvious that's a problem. But I'm not seeing that. They're kicking up expenditure. Why shouldn't they go to 200 million pops? Because here's the thing that I know about pops. First of all, the term pops, I don't like.
Right.
I really don't. Give me a measure of how much space those upgrades span over is more meaningful to me, because, I mean, what is considered national coverage? 70% of the U.S., right? Like the population, the human, like actual United States citizens. That's considered national.
Right.
So T-Mobile says they'll have 300 million pops of ultra wideband or ultra capacity by then. Yada, yada, yada. Whatever. I just want to see the coverage maps. I just want to see the RootMetrics reports. I want to see people showing these upgrades actually happening. Big shout out to Chucky. Thanks for that super chat. Appreciate you, man. Yeah.
Sneed, really quickly. We talked about the previous CapEx. So Tyrone was doing some math and doing some investigation on this. The previous CapEx was 21 billion, right? From that 21 billion, approximately 9 billion was, approximately 6 to 7 billion was going to Warner Media.
Okay, so 21, take away the 6 or 7. Yep. Okay, so we're at 14 or 15.
14 or 15. Now, that 9 So now it goes up to 24 billion once the close of this transaction, right? The divestiture. It will go up to 9 billion additional. By the way, that 9 billion additional, Sneed Man, isn't that what T-Mobile wants to get to, right? They're going to reduce their capex.
You know, that's been a concern of mine. I've always felt that the company willing to spend is the company that gets ahead and stays ahead. You know, the one thing that has always been on the side of Verizon is they've always been focused on wireless. And they have always been winning on wireless.
Right.
You know, they've always done a really good job nationally. And I know there's going to be people coming out of the woodworks. Verizon's got band 13 only towers in my county. You know, okay, I get it. But from a national perspective, when we look at the national coverage, nobody's doing it bigger and better than Verizon. You know, and that's the ghost. That's what the carriers are chasing. If you look, T-Mobile is always trying to catch Verizon. AT&T is always trying to catch Verizon. The FirstNet contract was specifically designed to catch Verizon because Verizon has had the largest network for a long time.
Right.
Essentially, the entire LT era was the trail was blazed by Verizon. They were basically the first to a semblance of a national LTE network, and they were the first to advanced LTE on a large scale, and they were the first to truly densify. You know, like they did all these things first. And now, you know, the other carriers are doing the same, and they're trying to create network parity nationally. And that's hard to do. You know, look at what AT&T has spent in the attempt to match Verizon coverage. See, what Verizon has done consistently throughout the years was spending. So it was 9 billion, 10 billion, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. They're now at 18 billion in consecutive years. So AT&T never did that. It was always a little bit lower until recently they kicked it up huge. You know, they started going into the 20s, 20, 21, 22 billion. You know, Tyrone's right. The carrier that spends the most improves the most. Everybody's like, oh, you throw money at a problem. Yeah. Yes. You throw money at your problems and it fixes the issues.
I don't understand when people see these are the thongs, bro. This is the problem, bro. I didn't want to get into it this early.
You don't have to. Here's what it is.
Yeah.
We watched AT&T revolutionize its network in 2 years because they spent a combined almost $50 billion.
Right.
How much of that went to wireless? I'd say at least 30 dedicated.
Right.
At least 30 billion dedicated. I mean, we've been watching T-Mobile spend 6 and 7 billion just recently. You know, Sprint was spending 4 and 5 billion. Verizon was at 15, 16, 17, 18. You know, they've been 18 for a couple years now. It's the only way to do it. It's not even really that you're throwing money at a problem. You are taking the money, the revenue you generate, and you're reinvesting it back into the network to maintain a quality experience for your customers. You know, I would always joke with people, you know, you look at some of these old stores